What's up, everybody? So this is Bryan Rector here with Confluence of Worlds podcast again. I wish we could so replicate the introduction that we did a few weeks ago with Caleb Coley. Caleb, if you hear that, dude, oh my goodness, that was unbelievable. Thank you for that. But we do have a really special episode today, and a lot of the reason why we'll get into. But I just want to say that thank you to everyone who's come on with us. Thank you in advance for everybody who is going to come on with us. And today we have Matt Basgall, who is a sophomore defenseman for Michigan State hockey. And this is why, folks, that I say that this episode is so special, is because I just learned about kind of a little bit of Matt's story and where he had come from and some of the things that he had partaken in his faith background very recently. And I was interested in reaching out and actually got to do that a few weeks ago. So thank you again for connecting with me. I really appreciate having you here. But then, I'm not sure, do you know Marin Klein? Do you know that name?
No, I don't think so.
She works with the team a little bit and like SSR, Spartan Sports Report.
Okay.
She's kind of around practice here and there, but and like does some interviews and stuff. She'll be in Coach Nightingale's presser, but She told me, she was like, somebody that you want to interview is Matt. And so I, from that point, was like, okay, let's go.
Oh, awesome.
But with that being said, dude, I'm just curious. It's like, A, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and two, why'd you want to come on, man?
It's a great opportunity to, spread my story, spread my faith, talk about the team. We've got a lot of hype right now, so, just talk about things that are happening in my life. I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And folks, that's the last piece in the introduction that I wanted to hit was this Michigan State hockey culture is one that has been there forever. I mean, from winning championships in '86 to then again winning a championship in 2007. And now, kind of some dull years for sure within the Michigan State hockey program, but it has been revolutionized. And I mean, sitting here at number 7 and 10, 4 and 2, and knowing that you guys were, after the sweep against Wisconsin, were able to come out of the break and head to Minnesota for a pair, I was wondering if I could get your take on how things have gone and what you like about this team and kind of what it looks like going forward.
Yeah. It's been crazy. Like, we've got a super new team. Like, I think we had 11 or 12 returners this year. So it's been like, a lot of new guys. I think I saw someone today saying we're like the third youngest team in the NCAA, which is pretty incredible. And it seems like it because I think between the sophomore and freshman class, I think we have, I want to say 18 or 19 guys, which makes up 2/3 of the team. So, yeah, so very young team. But, season's been awesome. Like, our non-conference play was pretty decent. We didn't have the toughest schedule in any sense, but we went to BC and, we learned a lot of things that we needed to learn about our team. So we came back from BC and, we got swept there. Kind of a tough weekend for us, but we got to work when we got back. And so we started Big Ten play and, we practice what we need to practice. We get better every day. We've been working hard and it's shown in the Big Ten game so far. So 10-4 and 2, I think we're very happy with that right now. We're just going to keep improving as it goes on. So, yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And then, folks, happy Thanksgiving. I do have to say that. I need to give a little shout out to all you guys out there who celebrated that holiday. And now we're back from that break. And so I was curious, how was the holiday for you? How was the family time? I know it was cut short a little bit, obviously, with the impending series in Minnesota. But did you get to spend any time with them? And what was that like?
I did in Minnesota.
Okay.
Never got to go home, so I had class Monday and Wednesday, and we were practicing through that. We left Thursday, got to Minnesota, we practiced, and we had Thanksgiving dinner at Gavin O'Connell's house, which was very awesome. Very generous of his family, but I'm very fortunate with my family or my parents at least, because my siblings are very busy also. But my parents make it to nearly every weekend. So my brother came up from college from Tulane, and he was able to spend Thanksgiving break at home and in Minnesota, which was awesome to see him again.
Yes.
So some good quality time. They got to see him at the hotel a decent amount, and we had Saturday off because of the Minnesota-Wisconsin football game. So I spent a good amount of time with them there. Getting to see him like every week, just about, depending on where we play, it's been great. It's always great seeing my family. So
for sure. I love to hear that level of commitment and sacrifice. That's super cool. And that's something that I definitely want to touch on even further down the line when we're on the show today. But I was curious, is like, man, you're from Illinois originally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was it like with your upbringing in Lake Forest, and what are some of the things that are important to your family in terms of like values, and what was your family life as you were getting to college?
Yeah, we have, my whole childhood, we were a very tight-knit family.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like, my brother and I were the two youngest children. We have two older sisters, so we cause a decent amount of ruckus in the house, as little brothers do. But yeah, I mean, as we grew older and we got more mature, like the relationships build, especially when you're apart from each other. So now my parents are empty nesters, and got a sister living in Spain, one's living in Wisconsin.
Wow.
My brother's going to school in New Orleans, so it's like we're all over the place, and so really any family time we get is super valuable. But growing up with them, it's, you just had your family of four. It's the brothers we were always playing sports, and sisters had their drama growing up. So yeah, that was about it. But parents are super supportive. In our family we have a pretty good faith background that we grew up going to church a lot. You have to follow up with that on your own time as well. So something the kids, that we've had to work on through the years. And then, I think just being super loving for each other and caring and always being supportive has been a big part of our family. For sure. I know, I love hearing that. Obviously, folks, if you've been with us on the podcast in episodes past, there are so many different family situations and upbringings and ways that happens. But I really appreciate your perspective on that as well. So I was curious, is like, where did you, because I know you said you had faith growing up and would attend church, and we were talking off camera a little bit about how that happened, but where would you say your faith started, and how did you kind of get into it, and what did you think about it as a younger kid? Yeah, so consciously it would have started probably around 12 or 13 years old is when I would start to realize what's actually going on at church. Yeah. But I was baptized just weeks after my birth, and had all the ceremonies in the Lutheran church that I went to and stuff. So, and then around age 13 it got to confirmation class and stuff, and you start to learn some things and pay attention to it, but still never really fully got into my skin. Never really resonated with it. And then I moved away to juniors and just left it basically at home is basically what happened. And then came to college and things took off from there when I, took the opportunities that I could here. So it just, being younger just gave me the background of it. And when I got to this stage, gave me the understanding that this is something I want to follow up on. So
yes, I know what's super intriguing is how that can happen, right? Is how you know it and you have it rooted there somewhere, but it doesn't quite take shape until you get to challenge yourself and see what else is out there and go through a trial and tribulation, or however that kind of manifests. But when was a moment that you knew, okay, this is I have a deeper understanding now. I'm more involved. I have a relationship with Jesus. When did that come? And was there an event that set that off, or was it just a progression?
Yeah, so last fall, I was going through, I started talking with our team minister, Philly Gillespie, and we started going through the gospel, basically. What is the gospel? Because there's just this misconception of how do you get to heaven. And I answered the question because he asked me. I was like, I think I've been a pretty good person in my life, and unfortunately that's not the answer. You can't live up to the standard of Jesus to get to heaven, because none of us are that. So I went through the gospel and learned a ton of things, and just meeting with him and feeling that freeing feeling that Jesus gives you, and that connection, that love was something you can't get from any single person, because no one can give that kind of unconditional love that Jesus can. So and then last November I gave my life to Christ, and that was the big moment, enter into a relationship with him. So that was the big turning point, and kind of following up on that, going into the spring semester, I didn't really get into the Bible after giving my life to Christ, actually. So I wouldn't say I turned all the way back to what I was before, but it wasn't like a progressive growth. You know, I didn't let the Holy Spirit necessarily like change things around in my life or, you know, listen to the opportunities that have given me to develop. But then eventually went to Ultimate Training Camp in May. I was convinced by Philly G, and you know, it was nerve-wracking going into it, but that was the life-changing experience that led me to, you know, what I am today.
So. Absolutely. And folks, I know that if you've been with us for a couple different episodes, but one, either Bree Berry, or two with Jonathan Stout, you've heard much about this Ultimate Training Camp and about what it does and how captivating it can be underneath the leadership of Athletes in Action. So I do want to use this as kind of a jumping off point into more questions I have for you, is what were some of your key takeaways from that experience with UTC?
I think the biggest one that just lives on is that sports will never be your identity. And you can never perform your greatest all the time. And I mean, perfection is just not possible in sports. There's too many things out of the realm or out of your capabilities. So that's the thing that's just stuck with me. And, you know, leading off of that is like, God doesn't judge you off of your performance. His love stays the same regardless of how you are out there. He gave us the gifts to use in sports. Like you know, we all have God-given abilities, especially, you know, make it to Division I athletics. It's pretty incredible, yes. But sports are for your enjoyment and not for your worth. That's probably the biggest takeaway I've taken from it.
So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that for a multitude of reasons, but I think that brings up an important question. Is for you, when did you start to see that your identity was wrapped up in sports? And how did you change that or begin to be different? And was that like a difficult process to go through when you identified that and started to, as you said, let the Spirit work and let it and Him, Christ, move things around in your life?
Yeah, and it's an ongoing process. It's always a learning process, but definitely at Ultimate Training Camp was just when I realized, I was like, you know, because there were times last year you have failures, you have mistakes, and you're just like, man, I lost the game, or, you know, this big play I should have made, and, you know, those are dark times you go through, and then when you're at this camp, you really learn like it doesn't matter in God's eyes, and that's all that's important, because you know, you have your salvation, and that's really the most important thing. There's nothing you could ever pay back for that, or, you know, that is the world to you, like in that moment. So, yeah, I guess I'm trying to think where I was going with that, but yeah. What was the original question you just asked?
I was interested about just what you were speaking on, which was, how did you separate your identity?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, after Ultimate Training Camp going in, we had summer training, so didn't have games until October.
Sure.
So there's plenty of time to, like, practice. Within practice and skates with coaches and stuff like that, like, you know, you make a mistake, it's all right. You're gonna get another opportunity. And regardless, it's not your worth. You're just, you know, God's with you in those moments, and you're going to move on, you're going to keep playing, and everything's going to be all right. So,
you know, this is where I kind of want to move a little bit into the more bare bones of the hockey and the sport that you play. But it's because I want to know about your juniors time, and because obviously we just spoke on identity. And sacrifices as well, in that you had a chance to play in the USHL and move to, I think, what was it? You said
Omaha was the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Tri-Cities in Kearney, Nebraska, so in the middle of Nebraska.
Yeah. And so what was that like? What was that like, being away from home and having what you knew challenged, you know, and being able to grow in such a situation like that?
Yeah, I know it's very interesting for outsiders, like, or just non-hockey players, to hear about junior hockey, because it's a wild ride. There's just, high school hockey's a thing in Minnesota and Michigan, but you know the USHL is just full of Division I athletes, Division I hockey players, and so I think the stat is like 95% of the players in that league go on to play Division I. So that's just the place to be. But the experience is it's wild. I moved away when I was a junior in high school. I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Just pack up and you know your parents. You can. I'm sure my parents. You can never imagine like you have a child and they're going to grow up eventually and move so early from home. You know, still 2 years of high school.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Like online school for the entire time. You're not going to school. You're basically a full-time hockey player. You'll do your academics at night, but it's you're waking up, you're going to the rink, you're putting the work, and very similar to college where we just played on the weekends. And lived with a billet family there, which was awesome. The people I lived with were amazing people. Still keep in touch with them.
Great.
So you're like part of the family there. It's a little uncomfortable at first just being away from home, but it grows on you, and the opportunity is awesome. You kind of, one thing that can be good or bad is you really gel with the team, and the players. It's you guys. You have your billet families, but you're just together as players. So guys gel together. They kind of mold into similar people through that process. So that's where you can lose yourself, or maybe gain some ground in your life. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you made the change from the two cities, that was through a trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did that feel? I mean, to be a young kid trying to figure it out and, living on your own per se, even though you're with the team. And then you give this notice that you're traded. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah. It was my third year, so I was 19. I was a little older. But yeah, we were going along in the season, and the team, they were the best team, and they reached out to my advisor, and they were like, we're looking for a defenseman, maybe, he could hop in, and yeah. So I had to evaluate like both sides. Do I want to be a part of that team? Do I want to leave this team? What's the best opportunity for me as a player, and as a chance to. It was my last year of juniors. I knew I was coming into Michigan State the next year, so it's like it was a great opportunity to win a championship, and unfortunately, I didn't think there was much opportunity for that at the team I was on. So, it was it's kind of it's both sides kind of had an influence on it. Like I have to say yes to it, and they had to want me enough to make the trade. So yeah, that's how it went.
Okay, for sure. And then I know you just said something really interesting, which was that by that time that you were evaluating, you had already committed to Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
So, and forgive me, this is something that I'm just not sure of, but when you had committed, were you committed to Coach Cole?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I committed back in February of 2019, actually. So
okay.
I was still at home in high school as a sophomore in high school.
Oh, wow.
So that's just how hockey goes.
Okay.
For a lot of kids, I wouldn't say a lot, but for some, you commit so early, and there's something like the coaching change happens, and you end up somewhere else. But fortunately for me, I mean, Coach Nightingale has been an awesome hire, and I've been so blessed with the opportunity I've had with him as a coach.
So when you were making your decision to play collegiately, where else were you considering? Was there anybody else that was on the fence?
Yeah, there were other schools that I'd heard from my advisor, just coaches that they reach out and stuff. But Michigan State was my first visit. I came in and they gave me a time period of when I needed to commit by. So it's like, and I looked at, they had the blueprints for all the facilities. Those were going to start up soon. This was pre-COVID. So, and it just looked like, Michigan State historically growing up, like, about the Spartans. The Spartans an icon. It was in the Big Ten Conference, which you can't go wrong with that.
No.
And you just, even with football and basketball exposure growing up, so we don't have college hockey in Illinois.
Yeah.
So, but you hear about Michigan State growing up. It's an iconic school, actually. Like D'Antonio did a great job with the football program, and championships in basketball and all that. So always heard about the Spartans, and then you get the opportunity to see what the school's about on the visit, and you're just like, this is awesome. How could I possibly pass something up like this? So,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I know too, like the coaching change that happened, as you said, is something that could deter you from staying, right? And actually, I got a chance to see a story like that, similar, with Julia Bishop from volleyball, where they had their coach changed from Kathy George to then Leah Johnson. And it's kind of a new era for Spartan athletics as a whole.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, in your case, of knowing that there was going to be a change, and as you said, having had the background of understanding what Michigan State is, why did you stay?
Yeah. I definitely, like, right away from the start, I'm like, okay, I have options. It was my last year of juniors. I knew, you know, I was going to get an opportunity in college regardless. So it definitely got tossed up in the air. Like, I could leave if I wanted to, but, you know, it was best to wait out the process, see who's brought in, see if they're right for me, if that's the right choice. And so Coach Nightingale got hired from the National Team Development Program. I've been, you know, summer training with this company called GVN Performance for 7 years now.
Okay.
It was 7 summers ago that I started training with them, and they're also the strength coaches at USA program where Coach Nightingale came from. And so I just heard plenty of amazing things about him. And he's got so many relationships in the hockey world that nobody spoke a negative thing about him.
Sure.
So it was like, all right, this is where I'm going to stay. You know, I'm hoping that can make a great first impression and, you know, do great for him in the first season. So
Yeah, for sure. And then I know, you know, this program, since you didn't experience the prior situation with Coach Cole and with the culture that had built here, and it's all been new. I was wondering, what are some of the things that you noticed about the culture that Coach Nightingale brings that you appreciate and that have allowed you guys to be where you've been? Because it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, that could be a long list. I mean, the culture is incredible. Like we have 3 words, or 4 technically, but 3 phrases: selfless, competitive, and work ethic are what we live by. And smart, fast, hard is our on-ice identity. But you know, those 3, that is the culture right there in a nutshell. So being selfless, being loving and caring towards your teammates, and being selfless, it shows itself in so many ways. Like going to work and practice is making your teammates better as well as yourself. So you're doing a disservice to your teammates if you're out there lollygagging and not putting your best foot forward. Same with the competitive piece. Like, we want to compete in practice and games. It's always super high tempo, super high pace. We're going to be bumping each other. You go into a corner, there's going to be a battle for a puck. You're not expected for a guy to just swipe at the puck and, you know, give you an easy time to the net. Work ethic, same sort of deal. But the culture side of things, in practice, you show up every day, and regardless of what you did on the weekend, you're gonna have a smile on your face. You're gonna have fun competing. Even, you know, we have tough practices. It's very high pace, but it's an absolute blast being out there. I've played for coaches where you have super tough practices and they make it tough mentally as well. You know, there's a lot of yelling and screaming, and that's, you know, I've been in that culture. It's not even close to what we have here. We have such a supportive staff, and the energy that the coaches bring, you know, and players bring just rubs off on everyone, makes a super fun environment. If you were to sit in on a practice, it would just be so much noise, lots of talk, lots of, you know, coaches' sticks banging on the glass, which is hilarious. And yeah, it's always a great time out there. So,
you know, now that you said that if you sat in on practice, I heard that and I said, wow, can we make that happen?
Yeah.
But no, I love that. One of my favorite stories about Coach Nightingale was I was showing up for a football game earlier this year to do some work, because, you know, I'm working for Spartan Vision and manning a camera in Spartan Stadium on game days, but he was out there grilling, I think, at the MUN, you know, office area. And I just went, what? This dude is on the way to turning this program into, I mean, an amazing place to be. And he's out here grilling and enjoying time with fans and taking pictures, and I just thought that was super cool. And confirms what you were saying about that atmosphere. So that's beautiful to hear.
No, that's for sure. Another thing about him is the humility he has, and it rubs off on the program. That's who we want to be. We're a humble program, and the way he acts is, you know, he's the big leader of the team. We have our captains. Everyone looks up to the coaches and the captains, and it starts with him. His humility really rubs off. seeing him like in the community, and him as a person is no different than what you would see on the bench or in the media or whatever. He's just a very straightforward, honest, very, caring human being. So yeah, it's incredible having him as a coach.
And I know you said that you're one of the youngest teams in America, and are I would say like getting to an experience point, right, where you've seen adversity, you've understood how the college game works, and you've adjusted to it. But I was wondering is like, even though you guys are so young, are there any senior or like older experienced leaders that you look up to or that kind of brought you in when you came?
Yeah, our captain, Nash Nienhaus, has been, I played with him in juniors actually, in Omaha my first year, so he was a leader then too.
Okay.
But he came over in a trade. I think we have similar playing styles and like similar attitudes and stuff, so we've gelled we have a great relationship together. I think he's 3 years older than me, but he's a great role model for, the entire team and myself. And watching him on the ice, he's a super poised player, super calm, and just seems to always be in the right position. And then as a leader and a person, he's, the same way. He's super mellow and leads the team in such a great way, such a humble way, as I was talking about Coach, very similar, great in the community, and very caring for his teammates. So yeah, he's probably one of them.
Yeah, that's super cool, and I liked your assessment of Nash as well. I think that's completely fair, and I think that I see a lot of poise in your game too. And I was wondering is like, now that you've kind of tying it back into faith, you've developed and seen a lot of growth in the spiritual sense. What are some of the more direct ways that that's translated to the ice, if they have? Or how have you seen God at work within the team, within the season? How would you assess that?
Yeah, from a leadership standpoint, Jesus being an incredible leader, I think it's great to follow his lead with, again, humility and kindness and, love, care, all those things like that. So even when things are going south, as I was speaking about earlier, like what I learned at UTC, it's not the end of the world when things, because it's sports, it's going to happen. Keeping guys up on the bench and, make a mistake, make sure, you're caring for your teammates, make sure that they're all right and they're going to continue on. You need everyone in the game. So, being a supportive group that, being the supportive group that we have, especially leadership, is great. And keeping all the guys mellow has been very important because, I've played on teams before where it's such a roller coaster on the bench. You get too high after a goal, maybe they strike 3 times after that, and then all of a sudden it feels like you guys lost the game already. But this past weekend we showed a lot of resiliency. We were down 2 goals to Minnesota with 5 minutes left, and you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference on the bench from the first period to that last 5 minutes. It was calm, cool, collected, and there was no panic. That's something we really stress in the locker room, is just playing the same way for 60 minutes regardless of the score. We just want to be better every day, and the results will take care of themselves as long as we're playing to our identity. So.
Looking at your statistics and your box score, so to say, throughout the 2 years, 2 things kind of jumped out at me, particularly from last year. The first was that you played in all 38 games, which as a freshman, I was like blown away by that. I loved that. But then also, I saw that you were 6th in the Big Ten, I believe, in block shots. And so I was wondering, as like you're carving out your role and you're figuring out the tangible things that you're going to offer to your team, why was it important to you to be able to give up the body and to be sacrificial in that way of laying down, to protect Trey from a shot, right? Or to make it difficult for that opposing team?
Yeah. To be honest, I have, looking back on it, I don't know when I started liking blocking shots. I love doing it, honestly. Okay. I don't know. Some of them catch you in bad spots. It's a little bit of an art, just making sure you keep your vulnerable, like your fingertips and things like that out of the way of the shot. But it's for some reason a great feeling when you block a shot, especially like if it's on the penalty kill. If someone winds up for a one-timer and you're taking it in the thigh or something, it's a weird. I know I'm weird for saying some of that stuff. It's like because not every player relates that. I think, I get a rush from it, honestly. It's a weird thing, but I love doing it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool. And I would say, I'm not sure if I've heard that before, but I like that unique perspective. So you're studying to be in dietetics, right?
Dietetics, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about where that came from and what you might want to do with that?
Yeah, so that's actually my second major on top of kinesiology.
Okay.
So I started in kinesiology last year. I've been going through that, but we have a team nutritionist on staff, and I've presented just a lot of interest in learning about nutrition in the past year and a half or so. And one day over summer, he came up to me. He was like, "Have you heard about the dietetics program at the school? Because I've heard it's actually a great program." And so we went into it. He said, there's a chance you could double major if you wanted to, or because nutrition's been, since I started like really paying attention to my body and my fitness and stuff, it's been a big part of me. So I looked into the program. It looked awesome. Super interested in it. I took a nutrition class last year, my freshman first semester, as just an elective because I loved learning about it. So we brought the opportunity up, and I was like, man, this looks great. I was projected to graduate early for kinesiology, a semester early, so why not try it out? If it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'll stick with kinesiology. So
I know that's a really cool route and a really cool path, and I think that especially being at the level that you have attained of athletics, it makes sense that you'd be wanting to learn and be educated in that. But I was intrigued too, is like being Christians as we are, and having faith in Jesus. One thing that we are called to do is take care of the mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
And so knowing that, I was wondering is why has that become a pillar for you in terms of your training and your regimen?
Yeah, I think it feels great eating clean, in my opinion. There are days where you go off the hook and that night you feel like crap and you wake up, you feel the same way. I definitely feel a difference to when I'm eating clean foods, and it affects my performance for sure. I've always felt that. From a Christian perspective, I always think one weird way to think is, how would Jesus eat? It's like, you didn't have bags of chips and all these cookies and stuff back when he was around. So I think that's a great approach to nutrition in general, just because God's provided what we need for our nutrition. Our nutrition needs on earth, he's provided it. We have the animals, we have the plants, we have the fruit, all that stuff. So it's all been provided. I think that's just a great way of looking at it.
Wow. Dude, I'm very happy that you just said it like that. I hadn't heard it like that before. That was very cool. That was, sweet. And obviously, folks, a conscious reminder for what is out there, and that we really, don't need to look too far to understand that the blueprint for living in such a way, that's successful and that's happy and fulfilling is right there. So that was a really good reminder. I know, because obviously, as you said, becoming a hockey player and looking for your next chapter, right, with playing in the USHL and then becoming a Michigan State player, that all happened at an early age. So given that, I was wondering, where did your drive and desire to play the sport come from?
Yeah, I loved it just growing up. Lived through, despite plenty of Detroit Red Wings fans that might listen to this, loved the Blackhawks growing up.
Okay.
The rivalry was incredible. Both teams were awesome, but the Blackhawks winning 3 cups in 6 years was really helpful. Watching Patrick Kane and Duncan Keith, the Spartan alum, and those were golden years of Blackhawks hockey. It's you idolize them, against the second commandment, but growing up, that's what I looked up to be. I was like, I want to be like that. And, as hockey went on, I was like 10, 11, 12 around there. You love it. You get more competitive. You go to bigger tournaments and you see like, it's weird from such a young age, but you're competing at the highest level already. And so I played baseball up until I was 11, and I fully committed to hockey at the age of 11, which it's bizarre, but I wish I played baseball longer. But that's how serious it got very quickly. So.
Okay. Yeah. What you just said about being a Blackhawks fan kind of hurt the heart a little bit. Obviously, we were talking off camera. I'm West Coast guy, but you know what that means? I grew up an LA Kings fan.
Yeah.
So
2013.
oh my goodness, that threw me through a loop, man.
Yeah.
That really did. But no, I like that. And like, what do you think are some of the gifts that you've been given? Because obviously we talked about that a little bit. We talked about the natural talents and gifts that we are bestowed upon that allow us to achieve or to at least understand what our path is going to be. And how if we just commit work to the Lord and glorify Him in what we do, that we have a chance to be something. But what do you think that your gifts and talents are that were presented to you that have allowed you to get to where you've gotten to?
Yeah. Physically, just the general athleticism that it takes to be at this level. But I think a lot of where you get to be to this level is mentally.
Okay.
I think like just having that inner drive. Very hard to explain where you get it from because not everyone has it. It takes a lot of drive I've been playing hockey for 17 years. Like, it's a lot of commitment and, you go through a lot to get there. So I'd say, like, that work ethic piece of it is definitely a gift. I think something I'm really gifted is caring for other people. I think it makes me a pretty good leader on the team, and it'll translate eventually. I won't be a hockey player forever. I can care for my teammates now, but eventually, whatever my future career is, my plan is post hockey to be a strength coach and a nutritionist. That's, in my opinion, that's caring for people, is bettering their lives in terms of fitness and creating healthier people. I think is a great thing, and then lastly, I'd say like my maturity of where I'm at now. Again, helps with leadership, but just understanding what I need to be as a person, as a follower of Christ, and being a good leader for people around me. And of course, we have a lot of kids that look up to us in the Spartan community, like we're Spartan hockey fans. Being a good leader for those kids as well, being a good role model and showing care for them is also a big part.
That's tremendous. That really is. I know. Like, one thing that I appreciate so much about the Michigan State community is just that. I mean, how it's ageless, timeless, and that people, alumni keep coming back, and new people are indoctrinated into it. I mean, that's just amazing. Oh gosh. Do you know what I said when we were off camera, just starting, how, we have the script here, but then every once in a while you just get to that point where you go, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
This right now is one of those points. So here's actually what I want to do is I want to read this and make sure that I get it right, just because it would be shame on me to get this wrong.
Yeah.
But there's a verse that I know is associated with you. I think it's on your bio on Instagram. That's 2 Corinthians 5:21. So I was wondering, is like, could you talk to me about what that means to you?
Yeah.
And about, where you kind of started to like that verse and how it's worked into your life?
So it's been shared quite a bit in AIA, so that's where I've heard it the most. But
okay.
Just to like summarize it, it's saying like God made him, Jesus, who had no sin, to be sin for us, so that we could have the righteousness of God. That's kind of like a general, if someone pulls up my page, I want them to see that. I think it brings on a lot of curiosity. It's not like something that, it's not like Philippians 4:13 where you can do all things by God who strengthens you. It's not really a personal one. It's like a general, here's what God did. This is incredible news. Yes. I hope you follow up on this. It's really like I'm pointing to God with that verse, not something about, what I can do in athletics or what helps me in athletics. So,
yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that we went to that point, because doing that allowed me to remember where I wanted to go previously, which is that you talked about the community. And being a part of that and understanding that people care. I was wondering if you've gotten any chance to go out into the community and participate in, whether it be, events or giving back, that you would like to share a story about.
Yeah, we have some great, like we had the Thanksgiving food drive that was started by Tori Crew, it's a great thing to do, but more personally, like we did like a Halloween for less fortunate, more of a disabled community.
Okay.
So we, us players, the hockey team and a couple other teams of athletes went to a baseball field and were able to serve candy for these kids, which is an awesome job, or an awesome opportunity to get out in the community and serve other people. I'm fortunate enough, Tiernan Shouty and I are the two SAC representatives for our team.
Oh, okay.
So we hear a lot about these like outreach opportunities and stuff. So, and then Operation Christmas Child AIA is another one. So we were, I was very fortunate. We got a lot of support from our team. We got a good amount of money and went to the dollar store, bought a bunch of things, and hoping to spoil some kids that are less fortunate overseas, and hopefully they can learn the gospel from that.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely. That's, we talk about being able to be on this level of sport and have that platform and do something with it. That's something that inspires me. There's been a unique change to collegiate sports, which is that now there's this era of NIL, right? Name, image, likeness, which we've been able to speak on many times before on Confluence of Worlds. But, alongside of the volunteering opportunities that you've been able to do, I was wondering if you've done anything within the NIL space, or if you planned on doing something in that, or what's kind of your take on it?
Yeah, early last year I had a little deal with this, functional chocolate bar company. I loved it, with my nutrition, my love for nutrition. I looked at it, they had super clean ingredients, and it was a dessert that wasn't it's not going to boost your insulin or, have any terrible effects on you. It was a great product, but, they had issues with shipping costs because they were a Canadian-based company, so they had to cut off their NIL little program. Besides that, I haven't really had any other NIL opportunity, and it's not like I've been seeking for it either. I think we have a lot on our plates in general. I think there's a time and a place for it.
Sure.
But NIL hasn't hit hockey as it has football, basketball, other sports I've seen. So when it hits, which I assume is coming, it's hit a few players, but when it really hits, I think it'll be next couple of years, and it's going to hit the Big Ten pretty hard. So, which is where most of the money is. So I think Michigan State will have a big input with that. The players of the future will get great opportunities.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's completely reasonable to say that there's so much on the plate as is. It doesn't make sense to jump into or to pursue actively, right? It's all about when it comes and on his timing.
Yeah, that's because you can be pressured into trying to get those NIL opportunities, but it seems with so much on our plate, it seems like a lot of work to be stretching out for that and chasing money in that sense or opportunities. So I guess one thing we do have now is we do have jersey and apparel setups a little bit. Yeah. So we just had to do a little bit with that, but not a ton, and that's a team based thing. So that's something that was good to get out into the community.
Yeah, for sure. I love your take on that. I really do, because oftentimes I feel like there is that narrative of NIL exists so that you can make $1, right? And that you can have the ability to get a car, or be an influencer, but I really like how you kind of said, no, man, it's about purpose. It's about why you do what you do. So that was cool. I like that. Well, I know we've been rapping about all this stuff, and we've gone a lot of cool places with the conversation. I was wondering, is there anything you want to get into before we head out?
Not off the top of my head. If I think about it, though, I think I think my story of like how my faith has come about is pretty cool. I was able to share my testimony at AIA just about a month ago, and I thought sharing my faith in that sense was a very cool opportunity. I hate public speaking.
Okay. Yeah.
At least, sharing presentations in class and stuff, never been a fan of.
Okay.
Not afraid of like a microphone in front of media or like even post game if there's a little interview in front of fans. I think that's awesome because you have such awesome support in those situations. But it was a little nerve-wracking going into AIA, but sharing something like your faith and how God has changed your life, how you've let the Holy Spirit really work wonders is something awesome. So, I think that was a great experience for me.
Okay, and actually, I'm glad you said that, especially right now as we're heading out to bounce out of here. What are some of the faith steps that you have thought about taking, or maybe that you would want to take next in your journey, if you have any of those off the top?
Yeah, I've been leading a Bible study for our team a little bit. So with the help of Philly G, that's been great. Like we've been able to get a good amount of guys just involved more consistently, and go through the Word and really learn. Just some incredible stories throughout the Bible. Like we just finished up with Joseph in Genesis, and this past weekend how he had his 11 brothers that eventually would bow down to him, and he had a crazy journey to get there. He was sold into slavery and went into prison, and all these things, but eventually made it to the top, and kept his faith the entire time, and eventually. Not the moral of the story that his brothers bowed down to him and needed grain for the famine that was going on, but it was just a story about you keep that faith. God's gonna work. He's gonna work your life out. He's got a plan for you. So always stay rooted in your beliefs and your faith. But other opportunities. I was hoping to go to Ultimate Training Camp again this year to be an intern, but got a vacation with my family, so. That's scheduled right in the middle of there, but hopefully can do that again, or in the future. And then it would be great to do like a hockey retreat, where we go out and travel and somewhere up in Colorado or Montana, somewhere you get to see God's beauty out there. It's an incredible space. So if we were able to do that, that would be an awesome thing for us to do.
Yeah, for sure. You just highlighted the very last thing that I want to touch on, which is that you had mentioned a vacation with family. I was wondering what are some of the ways that you enjoy getting away from the game and away from the grind? What does a off day with Matt Basgall look like?
Yeah. Most of my Sundays are pretty, I wake up and I go to church. That's the first thing. And after that, it's grocery shopping and homework a lot of the time. Watch a lot of NFL football on Sundays. When it comes to Christmas break, it'll be. I love cooking personally. I'll like to cook a meal or two for my family when we're back there. So we planned a little bit of that when we were in Minnesota. So when we get back for Christmas break, we'll have some of that. But spend time with my brother. We miss being, little just kids together. Play NHL against each other or whatever it is, something like that. So where we compete against each other, maybe get a little angry, but it's gonna happen. And then my sister's gonna come in from Spain, so spend time with her. One of our sisters from Wisconsin, so yeah, it'll be a lot of family time there. Put the computer away. I will be continuously skating through that. Through break, we gotta stay in shape for the GLI.
No doubt.
But getting away from the game. It's I'd say 3 days is enough, honestly. Yeah, wow. You get away and you want to get back in, especially when you love your teammates and have such a great group. It's something you always want to be around. So
yeah, for sure. And lastly, do you have anybody that you want to shout out? Anything you want to mention before we get on?
In terms of just the podcast, or
yeah, I mean, whoever's made a difference to you, some teammates, whoever you want to shout out, man. We're willing to do that.
I'd say, off the top of my head, I've got Carson Dorver's been a great teammate, great friend over the past year and a half. He's got a faith background. We do Bible study together, and Tiernan Chowdy's the other one. Also, he just got into his faith this year and gave his life to Christ earlier this semester, which was awesome. And I was happy to be a part of that. Like we met for our Bible studies and went to AA together. So those two have been awesome, supportive teammates. Love being around them. I mean, I'd mention the entire team if I could, because everyone's just been awesome. So
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Well, absolutely. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show
Thank
at
you.
Confluence of Worlds. And I know we were playing some pool earlier. That was good. Might have to get another one of those in. But
Yeah.
seriously, thank you guys for listening. Really hope you're still here. And there's actually something I'm going to try this time to get you guys tuned in to the entire episode. So I'm hoping that works. And we'll keep coming here on Confluence of Worlds with Bryan Rector with more episodes. But glad we could come back with a hard-hitting one, Michigan State hockey, the D-man representing Matt Basgall. And hope you guys have a great day wherever you are and whatever you're doing.